Welcome, everyone, to this presentation on marine ecology. Marine ecology is a fascinating field that studies the incredible world beneath the waves. In the coming slides, we'll dive into the components of a marine ecosystem, how life interacts with its environment, and why studying the ocean is important to our planet's future. Today, we embark on a journey into the depths of our oceans and seas to uncover the dynamics of marine ecosystems and address pressing environmental crises. Our focus will be divided into two main themes: marine ecology and the dying heart of Southeast Asia, environmental crisis in the South China Sea. Let's dive into these complex and critical topics. In our exploration of marine ecology, we will delve into the interactions between marine life and their habitats. We begin with an introduction to marine ecology, setting the stage for a deeper understanding of the living and non-living components that make up our oceans. We will cover biotic components. Here, we'll study living organisms and their roles within the marine food web. Abiotic components. We will look at non-living factors like temperature and salinity and their impact on marine biodiversity. Relationship between organisms and environment. Discover how marine species adapt to their environments and how these adaptations drive their evolution. And human impact on marine ecology. We'll discuss our role in the health of these ecosystems and the ongoing effects of human activities on marine life. Shifting our gaze to the South China Sea, or more specifically the West Philippine Sea, we encounter an environmental crisis that possesses significant threats to regional biodiversity and human livelihoods. This section will cover topics from the Deep Blue Scars, Environmental Threats to the South China Sea by Monica Sato, Harrison Pritat, Tabitha Mallory, Hao Chen, and Gregory Poling, which was published December 18, 2023. Life in the South China Sea, understanding the unique biodiversity of this contested body of water. Reef destruction. We'll examine the consequences of human actions such as coral bleaching and habitat destruction. Overfishing. Discuss the unsustainable fishing practices that threaten marine populations. And we are going to have a short case study, the Scarborough Shoal, a closer look at specific ecological challenges in this pivotal area. And the future of the South China Sea, what lies ahead for this vital region. We'll conclude with steps we can take to mitigate this crisis, emphasizing conservation and sustainable practices. As we move through these presentations, keep in mind the interconnectedness of all life forms and the critical role we play in maintaining the balance of our planet's ecosystems. Let's prepare to ask questions, seek solutions, and take action. Marine ecology is about more than just marine life. It's about understanding the delicate balance of the entire ocean system, from the tiniest plankton to the largest whales. Studying this interconnectedness helps us understand the ocean's role in regulating our climate, providing vital food sources, and impact of human activities on the planet's marine environments. Let's focus on the biotic components of marine ecosystems, which are the living elements that form the backbone of oceanic life. Understanding these components help us grasp the complex interactions that sustain marine environments. We categorize the living organisms in marine ecosystems into several groups, each playing a unique role. First, we have the producers, such as phytoplankton. These tiny organisms are the primary producers of energy through photosynthesis, serving as the foundation of the marine food web. Next, there are the consumers. This group includes a wide range of marine life, from small fish to the largest mammals like whales. They rely directly on the energy produced by phytoplankton and other marine plants, or indirectly by consuming other animals. We also have decomposers, including bacteria and fungi, which play a critical role in breaking down dead organic materials. This process recycles nutrients back into the ecosystem, making them available for use by producers, thus sustaining the cycle of life. Lastly, the ecosystem includes predators, parasites, and competitors. These interactions among species are what regulate population sizes and maintain ecological balance. Each of these biotic components is interconnected through the marine food web. The energy captured by producers flows up through each trophic level, from consumers to top predators, facilitated by decomposers and recycled nutrients. This continuous flow and recycling of nutrients are what drive the dynamic balance of marine ecosystems. Furthermore, these interactions are not just about energy transfer. They also involve complex relationships like predation, competition, and symbiosis, which are crucial for the evolutionary pressures that shape biodiversity in the ocean. In summary, the biotic components of marine ecosystems are more than just parts of food web. They are active participants in nutrient cycling and maintaining the ecological balance that ensures the health and sustainability of our oceans. As we continue our exploration of marine ecosystems, let's shift our focus from the living elements we discussed earlier to the non-living or abiotic components. These factors are essential in shaping the marine ecosystem or marine environment and influencing the life cycles of its inhabitants. Marine ecosystems are influenced by a variety of abiotic factors, which include temperature, which affects the metabolic rates of marine organisms, salinity, the concentration of salt in water, which influences the buoyancy and water balance of marine life, sunlight, crucial for photosynthesis, driving the primary production that supports the entire food web, dissolved oxygen, essential for the respiration of aquatic organisms, nutrients, such as nitrogen and phosphorus, which are vital for plant growth and consequently affect the entire food chain, water pressure, which increases with depth and affects the physiology of deep sea organisms, and pH, the acidity of the water, impacting many biological and chemical processes. These abiotic factors are not isolated. They interact with each other and impact marine life in multiple ways. Physiological. Organisms adapt their bodies to handle various in temperature and pressure, such as the development of pressure-resistant proteins by deep-sea creatures. Behavioral. Many marine species migrate based on changes in water temperature or salinity, seeking optimal conditions for feeding and reproduction. Distributional. The ability or the availability of sunlight and nutrients determines where certain species like phytoplankton can thrive, which in turn influences the distribution of other species dependent on them for food. In conclusion, the abiotic components play a fundamental role in defining the structure and function of marine ecosystems. They dictate not only where organisms live, but also how they survive and interact. Understanding these factors allow us to better predict changes in marine biodiversity and prepare for the impact of climate change. Let's take a moment to discuss how these abiotic factors might be changing due to human impacts and what this means for the future of marine ecosystems. Next, let's explore the fascinating relationship between marine organisms and their environments. This connection is a powerful driver of evolution, shaping the form and function of marine life to optimize survival and reproduction in diverse habitats. The relationship between an organism's form, its functions, and the environment is a fundamental aspect of evolutionary biology. Marine organisms evolve adaptations that enhance their fitness, essentially their ability to survive and reproduce within their specific environmental contexts. These adaptations are not random, but are responses to the environmental pressures they face. Let's look at some specific examples of these evolutionary adaptations in marine species. Streamlined bodies of dolphins. Dolphins have evolved streamlined bodies to reduce drag, allowing them to swim efficiently at high speeds. This adaptation is crucial for catching prey and escaping predator in the aquatic environment. Bioluminescence in deep-sea fish. Many deep-sea fish species have developed bioluminescence. This ability to produce light is used for attracting prey, communication, and camouflage in the pitch-dark depths of the ocean. Filter feeding in baleen whales. Baleen whales, one of the largest animals on Earth, utilize filter feeding mechanisms to consume large quantities of small marine organisms. This adaptation allows them to thrive in ocean zones where these tiny prey are abundant but dispersed. These adaptations are not just minor modifications. They are complex changes that have developed over millions of years. They highlight the incredible capacity of marine organisms to engineer themselves in response to their ecological niches. By studying this relationship, we gain insights into the dynamic interplay of life and the environment, offering clues about how species may continue to evolve with changing ocean conditions. Understanding these adaptations allows us to appreciate the complexity and ingenuity of life in our oceans. Does anyone have questions, or is there a particular adaptation that intrigues you? How marine organisms are classified based on their interactions with ecosystems. That is what we are going to look into in this slide. Let's explore the fascinating world of symbiotic relationships and the crucial role some lesser-known creatures play in maintaining the balance of marine life. First, let's talk about symbiosis. This is a mutual relationship where both organisms involved benefit from each other. A classic example here is the clownfish and the sea anemone. The clownfish, with its bright colors, finds safety from predators among the anemonic toxic tentacles. In return, it provides the anemone with nutrients in one form of waste. This relationship exemplifies how two very different creatures can form a partnership that benefits both. Next, we have commensalism. In this relationship, one organism benefits while the other is not significantly harmed or helped. A great example of this is the barnacles on whales. Barnacles attach themselves to the whale's skin, gaining a free ride across the oceans and access to more food sources, while the whale generally isn't affected by their presence. Moving to a less friendly relationship, we have parasitism. This occurs when one organism benefits at the expense of the other. Take, for instance, the isopods that attach to fish. These parasites feed on the host's blood, which can weaken or even kill the host over time. Let's not forget about the detrivores, the unsung heroes of nutrient cycling. These organisms, such as a sea cucumber, play a pivotal role by consuming dead organic material. They help compose this material, recycling it back into ecosystem, which is vital for the health of marine habitats. Additionally, barnacles, beyond their role in commensalism, serve an important function in the food chain. They are a key food source for a variety of species, including bird and fish, highlighting their integral role in marine ecosystems. As we can see, the relationships were discussed are complex and interconnected. Each organism, no matter how small, has a role that impacts the larger ecosystem. Understanding how marine organisms are classified and how they interact with their ecosystems not only fascinates us with the intricacies of marine life, but also highlights the delicate balance necessary for these ecosystems to thrive. It's a reminder of a complex web of life that exists beneath the waves and the importance of our conservation efforts. Let us now transition from how marine organisms interact with each other to how they fit into different zones of the marine environment. Understanding this zonation is crucial for appreciating the diversity and the adaptability of marine life. We'll start by exploring the three main zones of the marine environment: the coastal zone, the open ocean, and then the deep sea. Each of these zones is distinct not only in terms of location, but also in the conditions and the types of life it supports. First, the coastal zone, which is the ocean's edge stretching from the high tide mark to the edge of the continental shelf. This zone is bustling with life due to its accessibility to sunlight and nutrients washed down from the terrestrial ecosystems. Here you find the myriad of species from seagrasses to coral reefs and a variety of fish and shellfish that are crucial both ecologically and economically. Moving outwards, we have the open ocean. This vast area covers 70% of the Earth's surface and extends from the edge of the continental shelf outward. It's less nutrient rich than coastal waters, but is home to large migratory species such as whales, dolphins, and large fish like tuna. The open ocean is a critical zone for understanding global marine ecology due to its size and ecological services it provides. Lastly, we delve into the deep sea, which is the most extensive and least explored of all the ocean zones. This zone starts where the open ocean waters become dark, extending to the deep ocean trenches. Despite the high pressure, low temperatures, and absence of light, life thrives. Unique organisms here, like the anglerfish and giant squid, have fascinating adaptations such as bioluminescence. Each of these zones supports unique ecosystems characterized by organisms adapted to their specific marine environment. From the algae and shore birds of the coastal zones to the plankton and jellyfish of the open ocean and the mysterious creatures of the deep sea, the marine environment is a tapestry of life, each thread woven perfectly into its surroundings. As you can see in these diagrams, the diversity of life across these zones is vast and varied. Each organism is a critical player in its ecosystem, adapted to the unique challenges of its environment. The marine environment is not just water. It's a complex world of different zones. each with its own characteristics and inhabitants. By understanding these zones, we get a clearer picture of marine biodiversity and the need to protect these environments from threats like pollution and climate change. As we delve deeper into the complex world of marine ecology, it's critical to understand the profound and often detrimental impacts humans have on marine environments. We will discuss three primary ways our activities are affecting marine ecology. First, let's address pollution. The oceans are often seen as dumping ground for human waste. Plastic pollution, for example, not only physically harms marine life like sea turtles and seabirds, but also enters the food chain through microplastics. Chemical runoff from agriculture and industries leads to nutrient overload, which can result in deadly algal blooms that deplete oxygen in water, causing massive fish kills. Secondly, overfishing. This unsustainable practice disrupts food web and leads to the depletion of key species, which can collapse entire marine ecosystems. Overfishing also affects the genetic diversity of fish populations, decreasing their resilience to environmental changes. And finally, climate change. The increase in global temperatures leads to ocean warming, which causes coral bleaching and threatens the very foundation of coral reef ecosystems. Additionally, increased CO2 levels lead to ocean acidification, making it difficult for shell-forming creatures to survive and thrive. These human impacts on marine ecology highlight the urgent need for sustainable management and conservation efforts. We must act diligently to mitigate these effects and preserve marine biodiversity. As we reflect on these global challenges, let's narrow our focus to a specific region that exemplifies these issues magnificently: the South China Sea, or we should call it the West Philippine Sea. This area, often called the dying heart of Southeast Asia, faces its unique set of challenges. In the South China Sea, environmental degradation is not just a threat to marine life, but also geopolitical flashpoint impacting numerous countries. Here, we'll explore how life in this contested sea is affected by reef destruction, overfishing, and broader environmental issues that mirror the global crisis we just discussed. We are going to explore a pressing issue that encapsulates the intersection of environmental degradation and human impact: the environmental crisis in South China Sea. This is part B of my report. This region, often referred to as the heart of Southeast Asia, is currently facing unprecedented environmental crisis. Its marine ecosystems, once rich and diverse, are now experiencing rapid decline due to factors such as overfishing, pollution, and extensive color bleaching. The South China Sea is not just only a body of water. Its biodiversity hotspot that hosts thousands of marine species, some of which are unique to the region. The health of its ecosystems is crucial for the environmental balance of Southeast Asia. The crisis doesn't just affect marine life. Millions of peoples across Southeast Asia depend on the sea for their livelihoods through fishing, tourism, and more. The degradation of these vital resources threatens not just ecological balance, but the economic stability and way of life for countless communities. As we proceed, let's consider the broader implications of this crisis, not only on the natural world, but also on human communities, and discuss what steps can be taken to mitigate these pressing issues. Let's take a closer look at the inhabitants of South China Sea. This region is teeming with life, hosting an astounding array of marine species, from the flamboyant clownfish to the elusive dugong. The biodiversity here is both rich and unique. Among these several species are endemic, found nowhere else on Earth. This includes types of reef fish, mollusks, and even hard-to-spot crustaceans, emphasizing the global environmental importance of this region. Coral reefs, after often called the rainforest of the sea, are central to maintaining this biodiversity. They serve not only as homes, but also as nurseries for many species of fish, crucial for their development, and nurseries for many species of fish, crucial for their development and survival. The connection between the natural wealth of the South China Sea and the livelihoods of millions of people is profound. For many communities, these waters are their supermarket and their income. Over 200 million people rely directly to these resources for their daily protein and economic needs. Understanding the life that thrives here helps us grasp the sheer value of the South China Sea, not just as a reservoir of biodiversity, but as a crucial pillar for regional stability and food security. One of the most visually dramatic indicators of the South China Sea's environmental crisis is the physical degradation of its coral reefs. The primary culprits include island building, dredging, and construction materials, and illegal poaching of giant clams. Island building, particularly in the Spratly Islands, has transformed vibrant reef ecosystems into militarized zones. These constructions are not only political provocations, but also ecological disasters. They involve massive dredging that destabilizes the seabed and buries corals under tons of sediment. Dredging, which is often used to gather materials for these artificial islands, directly destroys the physical structure of reefs. This not only kills existing coral colonies, but also disrupts marine currents that are essential for nutrient distribution across marine ecosystem. The poaching of giant clams, a practice that has escalated in recent years, further strains these fragile ecosystems. The removal of these clams, which play a crucial role in the calcium carbonate cycle of coral reefs, leaves a lasting impact. It is important to note that the majority of these activities, especially around the Spratly Islands, have been attributed to the initiatives by China, contributing significantly to the ecological degradation observed. The combined effects of these actions is catastrophic. Reefs are smothered, water quality is reduced, and the very currents that support life are altered, leading to the decrease in biodiversity and then the collapse of local fisheries that many communities depend on for survival. Understanding this destruction or destructive activities helps us recognize the urgent need for the international cooperation and the effective marine protection policies to safeguard these valuable natural resources. The South China Sea, while rich in marine biodiversity, is facing severe threats from overfishing. This is largely driven by industrial scale fishing fleets, with significant contributions from the Chinese operations. These fleets use advanced large-scale fishing techniques that captures fish in enormous volumes, far exceeding sustainable levels. The images here show just how massive these operations are and the vast areas they impact. One particularly destructive method is the bottom throwing, which not only captures targeted fish species, but also devastates the seafloor habitats. This practice involves dredging or dragging heavy nets across the ocean floor, uprooting everything in their paths, from coral to seabed flora. The graphs displayed reflect the alarming rate at which fish populations have plummeted in recent years, a direct result of uh, overexploitation. Species that have sustained local communities for generations are now in sharp decline. The consequences extend beyond environmental damage. Local fishers who depend on these waters for their livelihoods find themselves, excuse me, competing with large fleets for increasingly scarce resources. Many are unable to sustain their ways of life due to depleted fish stocks. Addressing this issue requires urgent international attention and cooperation. Sustainable fishing practices must be enforced, and local communities need support to adapt and compete in this changing landscape. On our case study, the Scarborough Shoal, um, let me go to that part here of the Scarborough Shoal. This is Sabrina Shoal. Let me see for Scarborough. As we focus on specific case study, the Scarborough Shoal, this area, traditionally a rich fishing ground for Filipino fishers, has become a focal point of international dispute, despite being located within the Philippine EEZ. The shoal is now controlled by China, contradicting the international court ruling that dismissed China's expansive claims in the South China Sea. The legal and geopolitical context of this aspect is when the International Tribunal's decision in 2016 explicitly rejected China's nine-dash line claims, which lack historical legal basis under United Nations Convention of the Law of the Sea. However, the control for this area remains contentious. The ecological degradation at Scarborough Shoal is significant. Overfishing by large fleets, particularly those backed by Chinese enforcement, have severely depleted these fish stocks. Additionally, destructive fishing practices, including the use of dynamite and bottom trawlers, have damaged the coral reefs crucial for marine biodiversity. The images and maps you've seen here illustrates not just the geopolitical stakes, but also the profound environmental impacts these disputes have wrought on the marine ecosystems. The situation at Scarborough Shoal is a stark reminder of the broader environmental and political challenges facing the South China Sea. It underscores the need for enforceable international maritime law and sustainable fishing practices to protect these critical natural resources. As we look into the future of the South China Sea, The challenges we face are not just ecological or economic, they are existential. The actions we take today will determine the sustainability of this crucial body of water and its surrounding regions. Experts warn of a potential biodiversity collapse and the unraveling of the entire ecosystem. The once vibrant marine life could give way to barren sea if current practices are not reversed. This this not just about losing species, but also disrupting the complex web of life that sustains these waters. The ecological crisis translate directly into economic and food insecurity, with declined fish stocks and damaged habitats. The livelihoods of millions who rely on these resources are at risk. These could lead to increased poverty and social instability across Southeast Asia. Moreover, the resources dwindle. The potential for increased tensions among nations vying for control over these diminishing assets grows. This competition should escalate into broader conflicts, threatening regional peace and security. But there is hope. International cooperation, stringent environmental policies, and continuity-driven conservation efforts can help mitigate these threats. It's imperative that all stakeholders, from governments to grassroots movements, work together to secure a sustainable future for the South China Sea. While the challenges are substantial, our capacity for change is even greater. Today, we focus on the path forward, emphasizing the critical action needed to preserve the South China Sea. First and foremost, is the need for robust international cooperation. The issues facing the South China Sea transcend national borders and require a united global response. International summits and agreements focusing on sustainable marine practices are vital for long-term success. We must also advocate for and implement sustainable fishing practices. This involves not only reducing the scale of catching to sustainable levels, but also adopting technologies that do not harm the marine environment. Ensuring these practices are adopted internationally can help replenish maintain healthy fish populations. Pressure must be applied to all nations, particularly China, to adhere to the international laws and respect marine boundaries. Encouraging changes in national policies through diplomatic channels and public advocacy is essential for making real progress. Several organizations are at the forefront of this fight where you can contribute, support, or get involved. Oceana works globally to advocate for science-based fisheries management and protect marine biodiversity. Asia Pacific Coral Reef Society. They focuses on coral reef conservation and research through Asia Pacific region. And Environmental Justice Foundation uses investigations and campaigns to improve environmental security and protect natural habitats. Each action, no matter how small, contributes to a large wave of change by supporting these organizations. Staying informed and participating in local and global advocacy, we can help ensure a sustainable future for the South China Sea. This is the end of my report. Thank you for listening and have a wonderful day ahead.